You can dig ditches for 40 years and still retire broke. And you can design one idea, one system, one business, and build wealth for generations. Same world, same time, same effort, but one man gets paid pennies while the other gets paid fortunes. What's the difference? Not the hours, not the effort. The difference is what they became. In this lesson, I'm going to show you why hard work by itself almost always fails to produce wealth. I'll reveal the missing ingredients that separate the broke from the wealthy, even when both work equally hard. You'll see how philosophy, discipline, and value creation make the difference between just getting by and building a fortune. And by the end, you'll know exactly why most people miss it and how you can avoid their mistake. I know the frustration. You're working long hours. You're doing your best. And still it feels like you're stuck running just to stay in place. You wonder why the rich keep getting richer while you're still worrying about bills. And you think, if only I worked harder, maybe then I'd get ahead. But here's the truth. Most people don't fail because of laziness. They fail because they never learned how money and value really work. They trade time for dollars instead of trading skill for fortune. And that's the difference. So here's what we're going to cover in the next 50 minutes. First, I'll show you why hard work alone is not the answer and why it often leads to disappointment instead of wealth. Then I'll reveal the shift in philosophy that wealthy people understand and most people miss. We'll talk about how to increase your value in the marketplace, not just your hours. I'll show you the law of sowing and reaping when it comes to money and why neglect of this law guarantees poverty. And before we finish, I'll give you one simple test, a test you can use to know right now whether your work is building your fortune or just paying your bills. Stay with me, because once you see this, you'll never look at hard work the same way again. Here's something most people completely miss. They believe if they just work hard enough, if they just put in the hours, if they're sincere and honest, then somehow the rewards will come. They tell themselves, if I give my job my best, life will give me its best. But that's not true. That's a lie most of the world lives by. And it's the reason why so many people work hard all their lives and still end up broke. You see, the marketplace doesn't pay you for effort. It doesn't pay you for sincerity. It pays you for value. And value doesn't come from sweating harder or staying later. Value comes from becoming more. Think about this. A man can dig ditches for 40 years, day after day, in the rain, in the cold, with blistered hands, and at the end he's still poor. Another man can design one idea, one system, one invention, and his family can live in wealth for generations. Same world, same effort, both sincere, both working. But one retires broke, and the other leaves behind a fortune. What's the difference? Not the hours, not the sweat. The difference is what they became. One man became valuable. The other man just became tired. I know this from personal experience. At 25 years old, I was broke. I was behind on my promises. I was working hard, but I had nothing to show for it. And I'll never forget when my mentor looked me straight in the eye and said, Jim, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. That's when I realized it wasn't the job, it wasn't the boss, it wasn't the economy, it was me. My problem wasn't that I wasn't working hard. My problem was that I wasn't working hard on the right thing on myself. See, here's the tragedy. Most people spend their whole lives trading time for money. They give up hours, days, years, and they think that's the formula. But wages don't make you rich. Wages only make you a living. To make a fortune, you have to work on value. You have to work on becoming more. So the marketplace sees you as rare, as unique, as indispensable. That's when your income changes. That's when your life changes. Not when you work harder, but when you work smarter on yourself, on your skills, on your philosophy. So let me ask you, are you just trading hours or are you building value? Are you waiting for your boss to raise your pay or are you raising your own worth so the market has no choice but to pay you more? Because that's the question that separates the broke from the wealthy. It's not effort, it's not luck, it's not sincerity, it's value. And value only grows when you grow. And here's the promise. If you'll start working harder on yourself than you do on your job, if you'll commit to growing your skills, your wisdom, your discipline, then the marketplace will reward you beyond anything you imagined. Because the market doesn't respond to hours, it responds to value. That's the tragedy most people never learn and the opportunity you can seize. So if effort alone doesn't build wealth, what does? The answer begins with philosophy, the way you think about money, about value, about your own future. And if your philosophy is wrong, no amount of work can save you. That's where we need to go next. Here's something that may sting a little, but it needs to be said. The reason most people stay broke, even though they work hard, is because of their philosophy. See, it isn't just the hours they put in. It isn't just the tasks they do every day. It's the way they think about money, about opportunity, about value. And the poor man's philosophy, the one that most of the world buys into, is the very thing that keeps them trapped. They believe a job alone will make them secure. They believe if they just clock in and clock out, follow the rules, wait for retirement, then life will somehow take care of them. But the truth is, that philosophy has never worked. It didn't work for their parents. It won't work for their children. And it won't work for them. Let me give you an example. Some people think if they're just sincere enough, everything will work out. But sincerity is not a test of truth. You can be sincerely wrong. You can be sincerely broke. You can be sincerely sick. And you can work sincerely at the wrong thing your whole life and still have nothing at the end. Sincerity doesn't change the outcome. Philosophy does. And here's the danger. Most people don't choose their philosophy. They inherit it. They borrow it from their parents, their friends, the crowd. They adopt the beliefs of people who never built wealth, and then they wonder why they can't get ahead. If your father worked hard for 40 years and still retired broke, and you adopt the same thinking, what do you expect will happen? You'll repeat his story. And that's not fate. That's philosophy. I remember when I was 25, a young father, broke and embarrassed. A little Girl Scout came to my door one evening selling cookies. $2 a box. She had the best presentation I'd ever heard, and I lied to her. I told her I've already bought some. The truth, I didn't have $2 in my pocket. That's when it hit me. I wasn't broke because I lacked opportunity. I was broke because my philosophy was wrong. I kept thinking hard work alone would save me, but it hadn't, and it never would. My mentor later said to me, Jim, if you don't change your philosophy, you'll end up the same in 10 years as you are right now, just older. And he was right. You see, the poor man's philosophy also says, I'll start later, I'll save later, I'll invest later, I'll improve myself later, but later never comes. Later turns into years, then into decades, and before long it turns into regret. That's why so many people make resolutions in January, and by February they're gone. Not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because their philosophy tells them comfort today is worth more than wealth tomorrow. That's the philosophy of poverty. That's the philosophy of survival. So let me ask you, what's your philosophy? Do you believe your job alone will take care of you? Do you believe life owes you security just because you put in the hours? Do you believe comfort today is worth more than wealth tomorrow? Because if that's your philosophy, you're in danger. Not immediate danger, because neglect never shouts, neglect whispers. It says, this doesn't matter. Missing today won't count. And you believe the whisper until it's too late. That's the tragedy of the poor man's philosophy. It promises comfort now, but it delivers regret later. It trades today's pleasure for tomorrow's poverty. It convinces people to drift instead of design. And it guarantees they'll work hard all their lives and still end up broke. But here's the good news. If the poor man's philosophy can keep you broke, then the wealthy man's philosophy can make you free. Because philosophy is a choice. You can tear up the old one, the borrowed one, the inherited one, and write a new one. And once you do, you'll never think about money, work, or value the same way again. So let's turn the page and talk about the wealthy man's philosophy, the philosophy that builds fortunes. Now let's talk about the other side, the philosophy of wealth. Because if the poor man's philosophy keeps you broke, then the wealthy man's philosophy can set you free. And here's what's amazing. Both men face the same world. They live in the same country, with the same government, the same economy, the same taxes, the same storms of life. But one ends up with regret, and the other ends up with fortune. The difference is not the wind. The difference is the set of the sail. The wealthy man simply sets his sail in a different direction, guided by a different philosophy. And here's what the wealthy man believes. He believes the marketplace rewards value, not hours. He believes money is not the goal. It is the result of becoming valuable, of solving problems, of offering service at a higher level. He believes wealth is not an accident. but a harvest. And like every harvest, it comes only to the farmer who sows, who waters, who weeds, who waits, and who reaps in due season. One of the wealthy man's core philosophies is this: work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because when you work on your job, you make a living. But when you work on yourself, you can make a fortune. That was the line my mentor gave me when I was 25, broke and confused. And it changed everything. At first, I didn't understand. How could working on myself change my paycheck? But then I saw it. My paycheck wasn't determined by my effort. It was determined by my value in the marketplace. And if I wanted more, I had to become more. See, the wealthy man's philosophy is not about waiting for luck or blaming the system or hoping for easier times. It's about becoming a person of value no matter the circumstances. It's about sowing the seeds of discipline, knowledge, skill, and service, knowing that the soil doesn't care who you are, it only cares what you plant. And if you plant wisely, abundantly, consistently, the harvest must come. That's not theory, that's law. The law of sowing and reaping. Let me give you an example. My mentor once told me to take out a sheet of paper and write down all my excuses. Taxes, government, boss, family, upbringing, circumstances. Then he told me to tear it up. Now, he said, write one word at the top of a new page. Me. That was the wealthy man's philosophy in a single moment. Take responsibility. Stop waiting for life to hand you a break. Stop waiting for someone else to change. Accept that your future is not determined by outside forces, but by the choices you make, the seeds you plant, the disciplines you practice. That's what wealthy men and women believe. And here's another key. The wealthy man's philosophy looks long-term. He's willing to sacrifice comfort today for freedom tomorrow. He's willing to skip the junk food, skip the instant pleasure, skip the wasteful spending, because he knows wealth grows slowly, quietly, consistently. He knows it compounds, like interest, like harvests, like habits. The poor man looks for quick rewards. The wealthy man plants for lasting abundance. So let me ask you, which philosophy have you adopted? The poor man's or the wealthy man's? Do you see money as something you chase or as something you attract by becoming more? Do you see your job as the answer or do you see yourself as the answer? Do you look for comfort today or do you build for tomorrow? Those questions decide everything. And here's the beautiful truth. Philosophy can be changed. You can throw out the old one and write a new one. Starting tonight, you can say, enough. From now on, I'll think like the wealthy. I'll sow the seeds of discipline. I'll work harder on myself. I'll focus on value, not just hours. And I'll stop waiting for the winds to change. I'll change the set of my sail. And when you do, everything begins to change. Now, once the philosophy is right, the next step is discipline. Because philosophy points the way, but discipline is what carries you there. Philosophy is the map, but discipline is the bridge. And without the bridge, you can know the way and still never arrive. So let's talk about discipline, the bridge most never cross. Now here's a truth that changed my whole life when I finally understood it. Every one of us has to pay a price. Every one of us has to carry pain. There's no escaping it. The only choice you get is which pain you'll take. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And let me tell you, discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. Discipline is temporary, it stings in the moment, but it passes quickly and leaves behind pride. Regret is permanent, it lingers, it grows heavier with time, and it leaves behind shame. And when you understand that, you stop asking, how do I avoid pain? And you start asking, which pain am I willing to pay? The pain of discipline looks small, almost trivial. It's the discipline of setting the alarm and getting up instead of rolling over. It's the discipline of putting a little money in savings instead of buying something you don't need. It's the discipline of opening a book instead of flipping on the television. It's the discipline of saying no to the second piece of cake, of saying yes to exercise, of making the uncomfortable phone call. None of those things look like they matter in the moment. They're small, they're easy to brush aside, they're easy to say. It won't matter if I skip today. That's the whisper of neglect. But stack up those whispers, and they become the roar of regret. The pain of regret shows up later. It doesn't sting today, it crushes tomorrow. It's the pain of standing at 40 or 50 or 60 years old and realizing you wasted decades. It's the pain of looking at your bank account and seeing nothing after a lifetime of work. It's the pain of looking in the mirror and knowing you could have been healthier, wiser, stronger, wealthier if only you had started sooner. And the worst part of regret is that it always comes when it's too late to change it. You can't go back and replant yesterday's field. You can't go back and do the disciplines you skipped. Regret always arrives too late, and it always weighs more than you can bear. When I was 25, I was paying the pain of regret. I was broke, embarrassed, behind on promises to my family, living with excuses. I worked hard, but I had nothing to show for it. And I realized the life I was building was headed toward more regret. Then my mentor said, Jim, you've got to change your philosophy, and you've got to start paying the lighter price. Pay the pain of discipline now, or you'll carry the pain of regret for the rest of your life. That hit me like a hammer, and I made the decision to switch pains. I started reading, journaling, saving, studying, practicing new disciplines. Was it uncomfortable? Yes, but it was nothing compared to the crushing weight of regret I'd been carrying. So let me ask you, which pain are you paying every day you choose, whether you know it or not? When you skip the discipline, you've chosen regret. When you practice the discipline, you've chosen freedom. And the beautiful thing is, you can decide tonight to trade pains. You can decide tonight to say, no more regret. I'll carry the small price of discipline now so I can enjoy the pride of accomplishment later. And here's what's so important to remember. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is design. It's the design of a better future. It's the architect's pencil sketching out the life you want to live. Every discipline you practice is another stroke of the pencil, another line in the blueprint of your destiny. And the more faithfully you practice, the stronger your bridge becomes, the more certain your success becomes, and the lighter your load becomes. Now, once we've understood the two pains, the question becomes practical. What are the daily disciplines that build fortune instead of regret? Because if you know the law but you don't apply it, it won't help you. So let's take a close look at the small daily disciplines that create wealth, health, wisdom, and pride. They may not look like much in the moment, but over time, they are the planks that build the bridge between goals, accomplishment. Now let me show you what makes the real difference, the disciplines that most overlook. Because they seem too small, too ordinary, too unimportant, but that's the secret. Wealth, wisdom, health, happiness, they are all hidden inside simple daily disciplines. Success is not doing something dramatic once in a while. Success is doing the simple right things every day until they accumulate into a harvest so great you almost can't believe it came from something so small. Take reading, for example. Reading 10 pages of a good book each day doesn't seem like much. It only takes 15 minutes. But if you do it consistently, that's 3,650 pages in a year. That's dozens of books. In 5 years, that's a library in your head. You'll have ideas, strategies, wisdom, insights that most people never gather in a lifetime. And when you bring that kind of wisdom to the marketplace, you're valuable. The marketplace doesn't pay for time, it pays for value, and wisdom multiplies your value. That's why 10 pages a day can change your whole future. Or take money. Saving $1 a day doesn't look like much. You can barely buy a cup of coffee with it. But over time, invested wisely, it becomes thousands. More importantly, the habit of saving teaches you control, patience, foresight. It teaches you to think long-term instead of chasing comfort today. And that habit compounds into freedom. The poor man spends everything and waits for a miracle. The wealthy man saves something every day and builds his own miracle. Or take health. One push-up today won't change your body. Skipping dessert once won't make you fit. Drinking one glass of water won't give you energy. But add them up. 10 years of small health disciplines makes you strong, vibrant, full of life. 10 years of neglect makes you weak, tired, and old before your time. Same years, different disciplines. And let's not forget relationships. A simple thank you, a kind word, a note of appreciation. Those are disciplines too. Neglect them and the weeds of resentment grow. Practice them and you reap loyalty, friendship, love. That's the law of sowing and reaping again. Playing out in the small disciplines of daily life. Here's the problem most people face. Neglect is just as easy as discipline. It's just as easy to skip the reading as it is to read. Just as easy to spend the dollar as to save it. Just as easy to eat the dessert as to pass on it. Just as easy to stay silent as to say thank you. The difference isn't in the difficulty. The difference is in the results. Neglect compounds into regret. Discipline compounds into fortune. That's the choice every day. So let me ask you, what are your daily disciplines? What small things are you practicing day after day that are building the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments? And what small neglects are you allowing that are eating holes in your bridge, weakening it until one day it collapses? Because make no mistake, the bridge is built one plank at a time. Every day you're either adding a plank of discipline or leaving a gap of neglect. And the bridge you're building is the one you'll have to cross. Now here's the exciting part. You don't have to rebuild your whole life in one day. You don't have to turn everything around overnight. You just have to start with one discipline, one simple, consistent action practiced daily. That one habit can change the direction of your sail, change the set of your life, change the entire outcome of your future. And once you've mastered one, add another and another. Soon your whole life is stitched together by strong daily disciplines, and the bridge beneath your feet is unshakable. So remember, success is not dramatic, it's ordinary. Ordinary disciplines practiced consistently that become extraordinary in their results. That's how fortunes are built, how character is built, how lives are transformed. And once you've grasped that, you'll never again look for miracles, because you'll know you're building your own one day at a time. Now, we've talked about philosophy, we've talked about discipline, but there's another factor most people underestimate, and it may be the most powerful of all. It's the people you walk with. Because even with the right philosophy and the right disciplines, the wrong company can still drag you back. So let's talk about associations and why the company you keep will decide the future you build. Now, here's something you've got to understand. If you're serious about wealth, if you're serious about success, if you're serious about building a bridge from where you are to where you want to be, it's not just your philosophy. It's not just your daily disciplines. It's also the company you keep. Because whether you realize it or not, the people around you are shaping you, molding you, influencing you every single day. Their language becomes your language. Their habits become your habits. Their standards become your standards. And little by little, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not because you chose it, but because influence doesn't ask permission. Influence just seeps in. Think about it. Sit long enough with complainers, and pretty soon you've got your own list of complaints. Spend time with people who blame the government, the boss, the system. And before long, you'll be nodding your head and blaming too. That's how fast it spreads. On the other hand, spend time with ambitious people, and suddenly your own vision grows bigger. Sit with achievers, and you'll start to feel ashamed of your excuses. Walk with those who expect more, and you'll find yourself rising to meet their expectations. Influence is contagious, and the only choice you have is which infection you'll catch. I remember my mentor telling me, "Jim, don't join an easy crowd. You won't grow there. Go where the expectations are high, where the demands are strong, where the conversation makes you stretch." And he was right. Easy crowds are comfortable. They pat you on the back for mediocrity. They don't challenge you. They don't demand more of you. They don't stretch you. And that's why easy crowds are dangerous, because comfort always comes before decline. But hard crowds, demanding crowds, ambitious crowds, they'll force you to bring your best. They'll make you sharpen your skills. They'll embarrass you out of your excuses. And in the end, they'll make you better. Now, here's the question you have to wrestle with. Who are your 5? Who are you letting shape your future? Who are you sitting with every week? Who are you listening to every day? Who do you let pour into your mind, into your habits, into your philosophy? Because that choice is one of the most important you'll ever make. And here's the tough truth. If you don't choose carefully, life will choose for you. You'll drift into circles of negativity, gossip, and complaint. You'll inherit their results. And you'll end up with regret that you could have avoided if you'd just been more deliberate about your associations. Now, I'm not saying abandon people. You don't have to cut off everyone in your life. But you do have to control the level of influence they have on you. If someone is negative, limit the time you spend with them. If someone complains, don't let their voice shape your philosophy. If someone drags you down, love them, respect them, but don't walk with them across the bridge. Because you can't cross into wealth while holding hands with people determined to stay broke. So here's my challenge to you. Seek out people you can admire. People whose results you respect. people who make you want to rise. If you want health, spend time with healthy people. If you want wealth, spend time with people who talk about opportunities, growth, service. If you want wisdom, sit with people who read, who think, who plan, because influence is powerful and it works whether you want it to or not. Surround yourself with the right people and you'll catch their vision, their standards, their discipline. Surround yourself with the wrong people and you'll catch their excuses, their laziness, their regret. And remember this, your associations are either building your bridge or weakening it. They are either laying planks of strength under your feet or pulling them out from beneath you. So choose wisely. Because no matter how strong your philosophy, no matter how disciplined your habits, if you walk with the wrong crowd, you'll still end up at the wrong destination. Now, once your philosophy is set, your disciplines are in place, and your associations are aligned, there's still one final law that governs the whole process. It's the law that guarantees results. It's the law that makes wealth predictable. It's the law of sowing and reaping. And if you'll understand it, respect it, and live by it, you'll never again wonder why some end up wealthy and others end up broke. Now let me take you to the final law, the one that explains everything we've been talking about, the law that guarantees results and makes life fair in the long run. It's the law of sowing and reaping. And here's what it says, plain and simple. You always reap what you sow. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always. If you plant corn, you don't get wheat. If you plant weeds, you don't get roses. If you plant nothing, you don't get something. The soil doesn't care about your story. The soil doesn't care about your sincerity. The soil only cares about the seed you put in it. That's why this law is the great equalizer. It treats everyone the same. And that's why wealth is predictable. It's not a matter of luck. It's not a matter of chance. It's not a matter of fate. It's a matter of what you're sowing. The tragedy is that most people don't understand this law, or they ignore it, or they hope it won't apply to them. They waste days, they waste dollars, they waste opportunities, and then they wonder why their harvest is empty. But the law doesn't bend. The law doesn't make exceptions. The law says if you sow little, you reap little. If you sow much, you reap much. And if you sow nothing, you reap nothing. That's the guarantee. Now here's something else you've got to remember. You don't reap in the same season that you sow. That's where most people get discouraged. They go to the gym for a week and they don't see results, so they quit. They save money for a month and the balance looks small, so they spend it. They read a book or two and they don't feel any smarter, so they stop. But the farmer knows better. The farmer knows there's a time to plant, a time to water, a time to wait, and only later a time to harvest. And life is the same. Just because you don't see immediate results doesn't mean the law isn't working. It just means you're still in the growing season. And if you'll keep sowing, the harvest will come. And here's the exciting part. You always reap more than you sow. One seed of corn doesn't give you one kernel back. It gives you a whole stalk with ears, with hundreds of kernels. That's multiplication. That's abundance. That's the miracle built into the law. And life works exactly the same way. One good idea multiplies into opportunities you never imagined. One act of kindness multiplies into relationships, into trust, into respect. One small discipline multiplies into wisdom, into wealth, into influence. That's why you must never despise small beginnings, because what looks small today, practiced consistently, multiplies tomorrow. But here's the warning. The law works in reverse too. Neglect multiplies. Laziness multiplies. Excuses multiply. One missed discipline today may not hurt one cigarette. Today may not kill you. $1 wasted today may not bankrupt you. But over time, the harvest shows up. And when it shows up, it's always more than what you planted. That's why regret weighs tons. Because regret is multiplied neglect coming back in a season when it's too late to change it. So here's the question you must answer. What seeds are you sowing? Every thought, every word, every choice, every discipline is a seed. And the harvest is guaranteed. You don't get to escape it. You don't get to trade it back. You only reap what you've sown. And the soil doesn't care if you meant well. It only cares about what you did. That's why the wealthy man lives deliberately. He sows deliberately. He doesn't leave his harvest to chance. He knows tomorrow's harvest is hiding inside today's habits. And here's the good news. You can start over. No matter what you've planted in the past, no matter what weeds are in your field right now, you can choose tonight to start sowing new seed. The soil is ready. The law is waiting. Life doesn't hold grudges. It doesn't say, because you wasted 10 years, I won't reward you. No. The moment you start sowing wisely, the law starts working in your favor. And in due season, the harvest will come. That's the guarantee. So remember, wealth isn't random. Poverty isn't mysterious. Regret isn't accidental. They're all harvests. They're all results of seeds sown daily over years in the soil of life. And once you understand that, you'll never again blame luck or chance or fate. You'll take responsibility for your seed. And when you do, you can predict your harvest. Because the law of sowing and reaping never fails. Now that we've walked through philosophy, discipline, associations, and this great law of sowing and reaping, it's time to bring it all together. Let's close our time with a challenge, a reminder, and a choice you must make if you don't want to work hard all your life and still end up broke. So let's bring this all back to where we started. Why is it that most people work hard all their lives and still end up broke? It's not because they didn't try. It's not because they weren't sincere. It's not because they didn't sweat or punch the clock or give their best effort. No, the tragedy is that effort alone has never been enough. Sincerity alone has never been enough. Hard work alone has never been enough. The marketplace doesn't pay you for hours. It doesn't pay you for sweat. It doesn't pay you for sincerity. It pays you for value. And value doesn't come by accident. Value comes from philosophy, from discipline, from associations, and from respecting the law of sowing and reaping. That's the bridge between hard work and wealth, between effort and reward, and most people never cross it. Think about it. Goals without discipline collapse. Discipline without the right philosophy misdirects. Philosophy without the right associations grows weak. And all of it without sowing and reaping guarantees poverty. That's why millions of people, sincere and hardworking, still retire broke. Because they never learned the real formula. They let themselves drift instead of design. They let excuses steal their discipline. They let easy crowds lower their standards. They let neglect choke their harvest. And in the end, they reaped what they sowed, regret. But it doesn't have to be your story. You can decide tonight to write a different ending. You can decide to tear up the poor man's philosophy and adopt the wealthy man's philosophy. You can decide to stop chasing comfort and start building value. You can decide to stop wishing it were easier and start wishing you were better. You can decide to start sowing new seeds. Seeds of discipline, of wisdom, of savings, of growth. And the moment you do, the law of sowing and reaping begins to work for you. The soil is ready. The harvest is waiting. The choice is yours. And let me challenge you. Don't let this be just another talk you heard. Don't close this and drift back into the same routine. Let this be the day you turn. Let this be the day you say, that's it. No more excuses. No more drifting. No more hoping hard work alone will save me. From today on, I'll adopt a new philosophy. I'll practice new disciplines. I'll choose new associations. I'll sow new seeds. And I'll build the bridge that carries me from effort to wealth, from survival to success, from regret to pride. If you'll make that decision not next year, not next month, but now then 5 years from now, you won't recognize yourself. And the best part is, your family, your friends, and the marketplace won't recognize you either. Because you'll have become someone rare, someone valuable, someone who didn't just work hard, but work smart and cross the bridge most never do. And if you really want to know why your bank account looks the way it does, then don't stop here. In my next lesson, I'll share the one truth my mentor told me that shocked me, embarrassed me, and changed everything about how I thought about money. It's the truth most people never face, and it's the reason why even when they make more, they stay broke. Click here, and let's continue this journey. Because success is not something you pursue, it's